Welcome back to the Win with Dice podcast, a podcast featuring members of the Win with Dice team. I'm Calvin, and I'm joined here by Ramon.
Hey guys, this is your first time listening to the Win with Dice podcast. This is a podcast where we talk about tabletop RPGs. Calvin and I like to discuss our games that we're in, the games that we run. So, if you're new to the hobby, or if you're new to GMing, you can see how it's like, demystify the other side of the GM screen.
Exactly. We have to offer our perspectives and everything on how we go about running games, and hopefully people listening to this are more inclined to give GMing a try. It's very fun and rewarding. So this week we've got a couple of topics to talk about. First off, we wanted to give some updates on the Pathfinder's 2nd edition remaster that's coming up later this year. As well, wanted to recap a Pathfinder session where things went very far off the rails in a way that has shifted pretty much the entire tone of the campaign.
Oh no.
So if you're interested in it's very fun. If you're interested in that sort of thing, of course, just as we should be saying to the top of the video more often, just hit that subscribe button so you can see more of our podcast episodes and more of the other stuff that's going on the channel, which we'll talk about a bit later. But of course, we got to get to today's topics. But before we get into that fun stuff, we have to get to the most important part of the show, the Win with Dice Weekly GM Tip of the Week.
Yes, the Win with Dice Weekly GM Tip of the Week, brought to you by Calvin. I guess he learned some stuff from, this last Pathfinder game he ran.
Indeed, I did. So one of the things that happened in this game is I thought we were going to stop for a bit, and then we kind of started going again. And I thought we would stop for, until the next session, and then I would have time to figure out how to deal with, the consequences of certain things that happened in the game. But we kind of ended up keeping going, and then at that point, all I could really do was just figure out, I know who the NPCs involved in this are, I know what they want and what they'll do, so I'm just gonna ride the wave of instinct and improv at this point and see what happens. And honestly, it came up to a better ending for that session than it would have been if we had just left it there and I had gone and reworked notes and stuff to figure out what specifically to do next, as opposed to improvising what came next. So I guess the advice I would give is that if you have a good sense of the characters in the situation that your players are involved in, then you have room to improvise the outcomes of situations, even if you might feel a little nervous or uncomfortable doing so. What you can just fall back to is, this is what this character wants, and this is how this character acts. If they stick to that, then things are going to end up where it would make sense for them to end up.
Yeah, I guess you'd say just kind of trust your instincts. Definitely a muscle that GMs, I would say not new GMs don't really have a chance to use it, but definitely don't be scared and just believe that, your ideas are good.
Yeah, it's like a lot of GMing stuff, it's largely a confidence thing, that when you come out the other side of it, you'll realize that, not only was it not so bad, it's actually better than the thing you might have prepared. Which isn't, I guess you could argue that's not the case in every single situation, but in a game like this, in a tabletop RPG game, so much of it is improvisation that leaning on that as a GM can lead to some results that you would not have thought of on your own.
Yeah, half the fun of the game is seeing, what you can come up with on the spot and what your players can come up with on the spot. It's all kind of organic, and everyone's kind of playing off of each other. So yeah, that's why everyone, there's no other experience out there than, tabletop RPGs, right? So
yeah. The most extensive video game still is limited by what they are able to add into it.
Yeah, exactly. So lean into what makes this genre of gaming special.
Exactly.
Yeah. So there you go, folks. There's your Win with Dice Weekly GM Tip of the Week. Thanks, Calvin. Can't speak today. It's bad for a podcast if you can't speak.
Nah, no worries. It's going to be a lot of me reading things today, so we're fine.
Oh, thank God. My tongue is tied, and I don't know why.
Well, maybe it's because you're so excited about Pathfinder 2nd Edition Remaster.
Actually, I'm pretty excited about that. That sounds. I love it when rules get less bloated.
Pretty much. So, coming off the heels of the OGL issues from earlier this year, and just including some quality of life and ease of use changes, Pathfinder, or Paizo rather, is going to be publishing a series of 4 books later this year and early next year that are going to cover a remaster of Pathfinder 2nd Edition. It's not being considered Pathfinder 2.5 because pretty much all the existing 2nd Edition stuff is still going to be compatible. It's just that they're dropping some certain things that came from the original OGL license and moving over to Paizo's own Orc license. So, the current plans, as far as I know them, or at least as far as scheduled, are a series of 4 books. In November of this year, there's going to be a player core book and a GM core book, which are going to sort of split up some of the things that are in the Pathfinder core rulebook, as well as include some of the things that are in the Game Mastery book. I'll go into a bit more details about the individual books in a bit. I just want to give like a high-level overview of what's happening. Then March next year will be the Monster Core book, which is basically the bestiary. And then July next year is Player Core 2, which you can think of as like the Advanced Player's Guide.
Nice.
So certain stuff is being changed because it derives from the original SRD, that resource document or system reference document that was part of that was originally part of D&D and has all those original terms. So certain things like spell level is being replaced by spell rank, which actually makes things a bit easier because then you don't have to mix up spell level and character level. That was always a frustration for me personally.
Oh, really? Well, I mean, I guess I've been I'm a veteran, so it's just like that stuff is just ingrained into my brain, so. Yeah,
for me, it was a thing that I got used to, but not a thing that, like, it was a thing to deal with more so than a part of the game. So I'm glad that's being changed.
Yeah, and like spell rank sounds cooler, to be honest with you, because, you can alter, like, you can increase lower spells into like higher spell slots and like they gain like extra bonuses or whatever, but if you say like, I'm going to increase the spell rank of this thing to get this extra bonus, I think it sounds cooler too.
Yeah, I think it'll be better. Additionally, they're removing ability scores and they're only going to use the modifiers, which I think is significant and kind of feels closer to how the game already plays anyways.
Wow, pushing forward, right? I can't believe it. How many years has it been since ability scores existed? So sick. That's crazy.
Yeah, I know there's some specific adjustment they would have to do for like higher level stuff, like when you get to like 18 and 19 and 20. But for the most part, you're only moving up by 2 points anyways. Like you rarely have an odd number for your ability score. I don't know if you're capable of having an odd number for an ability score anyways in Pathfinder 2.
The only way is like when you get to hit 19. So as soon as you hit 18, if you try to get an extra, well, the way it works now is that when you hit 18, if you try to increase that score again, it goes up by
just one, right?
1, and then afterwards it goes up by 1 every time. I guess there's they're reducing your growth that way, but I don't know, maybe they'll just let's see what they change it to, because I'm interested. Maybe they'll change like the level up graph or whatever, so it's like maybe not every level you gain a point, right?
Yeah,
maybe it's like,
it might also just be like the number of ability score increases you have to spend will change, because normally you spend 1 to go up by 2, but you might have to spend 2 when you get to that level.
Yeah, that would be the exact same.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They are also removing alignment, which is another major thing. So alignments like lawful and chaotic, good and evil, they're being replaced by edicts and anathema, which are, basically like things you follow and things you avoid. Those are some stuff that are like mechanical to certain classes already. So, for example, good and evil damage is just going to be like holy and unholy damage.
Oh, okay, cool. So then I guess for the monster reference, it would just be like this thing takes extra versus unholy damage, or holy damage, right? Okay,
yeah,
cool. Makes
exactly.
sense.
And then there's some like name change stuff from stuff that derives from the OGL. So things like Magic Missile might become Force Missile. Tiefling and Aasimar being replaced by Nephilim. Dragon types, which I thought was interesting, being changed from chromatic and metallic to the 4 magic traditions, such as Arcane, Divine, Primal, and Occult. And there's a few other like dragon types going on, but they're splitting off from the chromatic and metallic ones.
Whoa, that's awesome. That's crazy. That's really good. I'm pretty excited about that one actually, because it makes dragons feel. I mean, at least for Pathfinder, it makes the Pathfinder dragons stand apart, right?
Yeah, like there's no like ownership over here is a red dragon that breathes fire, but I think just because of how it all derived from the same OGL document, that's why they wanted to split away from it.
Yeah, and I think that it's nicer too because like it aligns like Pathfinder's like traditions with Pathfinder's like tradition mechanic as well, right? So I can totally see like a primal dragon getting like primal spells or something like that, right? Like it just kind of aligns things better to what Pathfinder's trying to do and taking that one step further away from being Dungeons and Dragons derivative, right?
Exactly. There are some class revisions. I'm not going to go into full details on the specifics of the revisions, but I'll say that the Alchemist, Champion, Witch, and Oracle are getting significantly revised.
That's good. That's
Yep.
good because I saw like there was some comments about like how the Alchemist needs to get changed, and we even experienced a little bit of it too within our unintended consequences campaign with Slider, right? It's a little clunky to use sometimes.
Yeah, like I've been playing Alchemist as well in the Cadfael Adventuring Academy game, but I've been doing pretty basic stuff with him, so I don't know if I've really, because he's certainly not as high level as Slider is in the other games. So
yeah.
But yeah, I welcome some changes. They're doing some minor mechanical changes, like some classes are getting certain proficiencies with weapons. The focus point system is being changed to be easier to use. I haven't personally had a problem with it though, but
I have.
Oh, okay.
A little bit. I have definitely had a problem.
I think like the most complicated thing is probably like regaining them, right? Or like what specifically have you had a problem with? Or is it just like having a different pool of spells to manage?
I find that the mechanic is like right now it's designed to be like you can spend this during a fight and it takes like 10 minutes rest essentially to refill that focus point. But I find that like at least for what I've chosen, the focus point ability is not really that cool.
Okay.
Right? Like yeah, because the one that the evocation gets for the wizard is you get to just launch a force bolt, right? And like a magic missile bolt, just one for one action. I mean, it's kind of cool, but it really doesn't do that much. And I know that like when it levels up, you can use like you get more bolts for that one action, but it isn't anything good. it wasn't that cool. So hopefully it's like better because like for 10 minutes of downtime and like for like it just doesn't I don't know. I think there's other focus abilities that are just better designed, but I feel like there's some that are just like not the greatest, like the magic bolt one. But
right.
Yeah, the force bolt. I think it's called force bolt specifically.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't know they might change that. It just says like from the document that I got this information from, I know they're just making updates to the system to make it a bit easier to use, but they might also change certain things mechanically.
Yeah, I mean that would be cool if they even if I could just got more of it, right? But yeah.
Okay, so just quickly skimming over the books that they'll be releasing. So again, there's the Player Core book, which has like the character creation, the game rules, conditions, like the basic stuff. It'll have the majority of the ancestries, including the Nephilim, the Leshy, and the Orc as a core ancestry, which would be interesting.
Nice.
It'll include 8 classes: the Bard, Cleric, Druid, Fighter, Ranger, Rogue, Witch, and Wizard. I think the Champion should be in there also. So the list might change. I'll just I'll link to the information below where I got this from. So yeah, basically it's just going to include all the core rulebook stuff, as well as some quality of life changes and rewording of certain spells, along with some new spells as well. The GM core book is going to have all the advice from building adventures and campaigns from the core rulebook, as well as the subsystems from the game mastery guide. It'll have those like popular variant rules, like the free archetype rule. It'll have a treasure section using some of the new item stuff that comes from the treasure vault book, and a settings chapter that has like all the settings information.
Oh, that's like super cool. I like pooling like the best parts of books, like, so it doesn't like invalidate like your purchase if you have purchased those materials, but for any new person, they don't have to like get all these books to get like, you know, to get the same tools, right?
Exactly. Yeah, like if you've already bought the Game Mastery Guide and Treasure Vault, like you still have those things, but someone new can get them together in one book, along with like setting information.
Yeah.
So those are going to be out later this year in November. Then for next year is the Monster Core book, which is going to be Bestiary 1 content with some additions from 2 and 3. And again, all the OGL monsters are going to be changed or removed. There were mention of some other types of dragons, like a Fortune Dragon, an Adamantine Dragon, a Mirage Dragon, and a Diabolic Dragon. So these were very relevant to me personally, being a person who's running a current campaign that has some very dragon-related MacGuffins.
Yeah, but at least now it's like, you know, you can just change the orbs to do different things now.
Yeah, that is part of what I'm thinking of. So I'll see what is in this book when it comes out. Nice. And then of course there's probably going to be like a Monster Core 2 and on in the future from there. Yeah. And then lastly, there's Player Core 2, which has the ancestries from other books. So you got your hobgoblins, your lizard folks, your cat folks, your gnolls, which might be renamed, your kobolds, your rat folks, and your tengus, and your versatile heritages. Your versatile heritages, which are the ones that you like slap on another heritage, like your Dampier or whatever. It also has the revision. Oh, I guess Champion is in here because it has the revisions for Alchemist, Champion, and Oracle as well.
I see. I guess they're just like moving them around. So I guess they probably were like working on them still or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, that's really cool. I'm super excited. I love Pathfinder, so always excited when Pasion does something cool with it.
Yeah. And then there's just some other basic stuff like deities. They'll have to change in some ways just because the alignment system is changing. There was mention of the upcoming Rage of Elements book, which has the Kineticist in it, but that's already had the changes applied to it. For people who are into Starfinder, it may have its own changes, again, to split from OGL content, but that's not planned anytime soon, or at least not immediately. Mm-hmm. And something that I thought would be interesting for us too is that they're doing some extensive work on hags.
Oh, yes, please. I need, like, I like the hags the way they are, but I think they could be way better, man. Like,
yeah, there's going to be new types and designs in the Monster Core book.
Perfect. I hope there's just a hag that just has a bunch of heads that do stuff. That's what I want, you know, like just weird shit where it's like, you know, I don't even know if I think, or like a hag that just like has a pot and like that's like the whole gimmick. It's like putting shit into the pot and then shit comes out of the pot.
I'm into it.
Yeah, man. Maybe I should just run more hags. Maybe I should make a whole campaign about hags and witches and stuff. I mean, I think I technically did, but but yeah, no, it's super cool. I also liked how in the article in their post or whatever they did on Paizo, that they shouted out Archives of Nethys, which is like the super cool SRD tool for Pathfinder 2e, and how they're actually just working with the site to get all that stuff updated. And I'm like, this is exactly the type of attitude you should have with, like, you know, third-party things for your game, in my opinion. You know, just work with the people that can make it easier for, you know, people to play your game, and then more people it'll just happen.
Yeah, right? Like if more people are playing the game, more people are going to buy stuff for the game, so
Yeah, and especially because people just need to look shit up fast, right? Sometimes it's easier just to Google something, or maybe they just don't have the book in front of them, so they can just use the archive to just pull up some information, right? And I like that it's they just, again, Pasion is very forward looking. I think they're paving the path forward, for tabletop RPGs and how you should be running that kind of game and business and stuff like that.
Yeah, certainly business-wise, given their creation of the ORC license and all the people who have signed up with it already.
Yeah, definitely hoping for the next 20 years for Pasion to become big corpo.
But not in a bad way, but
not in a bad way, but in a good way. I mean, let's see. Maybe in 20 years I'll be like, "Damn you, Pasion! you're the problem back in my day," and I get my boomer on.
Yeah, by then we'll have something new.
Yeah, by then we'll have something new.
All right, so yeah, those are all the basics of the upcoming changes, but I'll have links to some notes and some other streams below that you can go check out for more info.
Yeah.
But for now, I wanted to get into a recap of a Pathfinder session.
But before that, I would like to ask y'all to like and subscribe, because we never say it. We only say it at the end, and I'm gonna try saying it more. It's if you like this content and you want to hear more of this kind of stuff, let us know in the comments. And if you want to get notified for when we post podcasts or when Calvin goes live, then subscribe and hit the notification bell, and drop a like on the video if you like Pasion, because damn, I think they're cool ass cats over there.
Indeed, those cats are cool.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into this recap here. So this is returning to the Crown of Dragons campaign that I've been running, where the party has been tasked with recovering the orbs of dragonkind and reassembling them into a device that will be required to deal with some oncoming apocalypse. Or at least that's what the Adventurers Guild believes.
Mm-hmm. Maybe it's like a half-truth. Ooh,
Many
maybe you're
things are.
actually summoning the bad guy. That would be pretty funny. It's
It would be
LOL, all this work, and he's like, ha ha, fool.
It's me.
It is me. Yeah, it's me.
Yeah. So when we last left this group, they were dealing with the Carlisle's candy factory and the candy dimension that his factory is connected to. Basically, just because of some hectic chaos that was going on in the candy dimension, stuff was happening in the factory, so they were able to help out there. They got a ton of gold for it. And then they were sort of off to do their own thing for a bit. They were in a big city, and that led them to an old rival of one of the party members. So the party consists of Randy, a human bard, Edgar, a human fighter, Valzana, an elf druid, and Talia, a human witch. And they discovered that one of Randy's old bandmates, Darren, had essentially many years ago, after Randy had been pretty much arrested and imprisoned in this magical necklace, just because his punishment for what he had done was a bit excessive, but he had pissed off the wrong people, basically. So he was pretty much imprisoned for a few decades. And they discovered that in that time, Darren had taken Randy's loot, as well as his songbook, and had used those to form his own, musical career. So, we started off the session with essentially the party tracking down Darren. Towards the end of the last session, I should say. They had tracked down Darren, they had started a bit of a confrontation with him. That ended up with Darren sort of backing away, going back to his room, but he did invite Valzana and Talia to go with him. In the meantime, Randy and Edgar were sort of listening in and paying attention to what was going on as Darren headed up to his room, and he was questioning Valzana and Talia. He seemed very suspicious of them. Eventually, he decided it would be better to get out of here before a fight started. So he tried to escape his room, and he summoned a bear just before he did. But when he got out into the hall, he ran face first into Edgar and Randy, and that's sort of where this session started, with that fight with Darren.
Yeah, and you told me that you used like this was IRL, right?
Indeed, it was. So it's been a while since I ran a session in real life, and it was my first time running a session on the classic What Erase board, where I had to draw a map in, and we had to use minis, and the minis weren't exact, so we had to pick ones that were close enough to our characters.
I love it. I love every minute of IRL play. It is stressful but fun all at the same time because you can't just be like copy paste.
Exactly. And like at the same time, there's parts of it that are easier because like I had something in mind for the shape of the inn because I wanted sort of like a specific sort of like U shape with certain rooms off to the sides, but I couldn't find anything that fit what I was envisioning in my mind. But then I could just draw it.
Yeah. I mean, it's fun. I love using like the amount of times I got like a flip mat from like a Paizo flip mat like 1 million years ago, right? And I still use it to this day.
Yeah.
Like anytime, like it's the Stonehenge one, like with the river. It is that map I've used so many times in so many games. It is crazy how many times we revisit that place. I don't even use the other side. I only use it for that one side.
Oh man, I don't even remember what the other side is. Is that like stone
like this,
background or?
It's like this autumn forest with like some stone staircases going up to like an upper ridge, but like you never see it because I'm like oh this is the place, and it's like oh magic circle here, oh there's a tomb here. Like it feels so cool.
Yeah, man.
Just to reuse this paraphernalia for like decades. I'm gonna pass these down to my kids. My great grandkid's gonna be like my great granddaddy beat up all his friends on this Stonehenge.
Oh man, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it certainly changes up the dynamic and the feeling of it when you're using like a physical map. It's but like even on the Wet Erase run, because later I had to like improvise some stuff, so I was like improvising a building across the street and everything, and then I could just like draw it in, and here's a door, and here's the back of it, and where do you want to go?
Yeah, right. It's so good. I love it so much, especially when you're just kind of like off the cuff, like oh yeah, this is here now.
Mm-hmm.
Just draw it in.
Yeah, it's so good. So yeah, but the fight itself did not go the way I expected. I sort of built Darren to be like a very high-level support guy. And then my intention was for him to sort of call out and summon some of his allies. I had made 2 different types, and I had 2 of each. One was sort of like a more heavy bruiser. The other was a bit more athletic and agile. And they had different like support abilities, and they had sneak attacks and things like that. And I was hoping to do some flanking in the tight space, but that didn't happen. What did happen is that Darren got grabbed pretty quickly, and that I could have dealt with, but he also got paralyzed because of an unfortunate low roll.
I love that the crux of your bad guys running away. It's always like some dude grabbed him.
Grabbing, my one weakness. Yeah, I could have dealt with the grab, but with the grab and the paralyze, I couldn't, because I couldn't cast spells, right? So all the support stuff I had planned and all the bard stuff that Darren is able to do, he wasn't able to do those things. So essentially it was still combat in a pretty tight space. What he did was like because there was some noise from when the fight started, across the hall from him was a room where his bodyguards essentially were staying. They usually like leave him to his own devices because he likes to bring people up to his room, I guess. And there was another room on that floor where some of his groupies were staying, so a couple of dancers came out wielding daggers.
Oh, sick. I love that it's just like regular ass people like, hey, that's my man.
Basically.
Pulls out a knife.
But what ended up happening is that the bodyguards were sort of kept out of play due to a calm emotion spell.
Oh, sick.
Partially a misreading of it, but I like how things turned out anyway, so it's fine. But yeah, they were sort of kept out of play, so they weren't able to contribute to flanking as much. So the dancers were sort of performing more of the damage functions, and they have like their own agility and sneak attack or whatever,
Yeah.
But I was sort of planning for the focus to be on the bigger guys, and the dancers just to be like annoying. But basically the position we were in was that Darren couldn't cast the support spells I needed. And then pretty much the party pushed him back into his room, sort of separating him from his allies. One of the dancers was able to get in, and she was doing some damage. And then Falzana the druid fired a lightning bolt. This was after some debate on like if we should kill these people because they were just like either hired goons or fans. But the debate ended rather quickly because the lightning bolt, Darren had managed to escape at this point and was able to dodge it, but the dancer was not so lucky, and some notable damage was rolled, and this person was just basically nuked by a lightning bolt.
Ooh.
At that point, one of the bodyguards, the one that had calm emotions applied, like he can't do hostile actions, but he did just see a murder. So he was going like he left he basically went back downstairs to report what had happened. So a time clock sort of started here.
Yeah.
At that point, they closed the door to the room. They managed to get Darren to a point where he would surrender after he got hit several times by the fighter and was pretty low on HP. So he was surrendering by putting his hands up, but he also cast the message spell, sending a message to his nearby allies to go get the town guard while he tried to stall the party. Unfortunately for him, some members of the party were able to notice, and then Valzana, this druid who comes from the wilds and does not know how society works, killed Darren with a murderous vine.
Oh my god. Wait a minute. This feels very familiar. I feel like I've been here before.
Maybe. There was an incident with Falzana stealing a book some time ago, but that got resolved. This is murder, though. Or something like it.
Well, I mean, like...
It's arguably self-defense, but...
Yeah, but, you know, it's gonna be hard to... Because, like, okay, well, like, I remember, too, in Pirate Game, where Rain just ran into a place and started murdering dudes, and then, you know, she was haunted by the law, and this feels very familiar. As well as, like, the last time some wild druid lady named Teagues also ran from the law.
I don't know what you mean. I am innocent. So, yeah, they did manage to get the loot back. They got the songbook back, and there was a long debate over what to do next at this point, because the other dancer had left as well, so they were questioning, like, do we kill the last bodyguard? Do we try to escape through the door, through the window? Do we hide the... There was, like, a brief moment where they thought of, like, hiding the body and then disguising themselves as Darren, and I have no idea where that plan was gonna go. It's always fun to watch players work.
Yes, I am Darren. I kill these people and then run away and then transform again. Yeah, I see it. They'll switcheroo. Now Darren's the wanted person.
Yeah, it's just something about like running a game and then just also being a player though, but just like you put multiple minds together to come up with like both the best ideas you've ever heard of and the worst ideas you've ever heard of. It's very fun. But they ended up deciding just to try and escape for now, heading back to Randy's old place. So they locked the door, they opened the window in the room. The last bodyguard that was upstairs was still trying to get in, but he was just not rolling very well, so at a certain point I was just like, just stop bothering to roll for him, because it's like, yeah, he's not getting through this door.
just walks away, he's like, forget it.
Well, he stayed there, like, calling out to Darren, but I stopped, like, rolling for him to, like, open the door, because clearly he couldn't do it. But yeah, so they did manage to escape out of the window. Valzana turned into a wasp and flew out. Randy and Talia just jumped out, but Edgar, the noble fighter, he just leaned against the door, and he was there trying to think about what to do next, because Edgar has been sort of the moral center of the party so far. But now that they've just basically killed a surrendering man, he didn't know what to do. And this was a point where I should have realized that things were about to go very much sideways. So, yeah, the party escapes, as well as the druid companion, who had to run away from some guards that were coming by. And this was a point where things basically split up. So, while Edgar decided to put down his weapons and wait for the guards to arrive, I went into a skill challenge with the rest of the party, where basically we went for a couple of rounds, and I just had them roll, like, skill checks. And it was a very basic skill challenge. Like, they just had to roll a check, and they just couldn't use the same skill twice. And it started off with, like, a fairly low DC, but that increased. That would keep increasing over time. But they did pretty well. I counted, like, a number of basically successes or a number of points based on their checks, where a regular success is 1 point, and then critical is like 2 points, and then the reverse for failures. And yeah, the goal was just to get a number of successes before they got a number of failures. And they were able to do so, mixing up things like stealth and climbing and good use of spells. So they were able to get back to Randy's old place while Edgar stayed and got arrested. So the party is split up. Some of them are back at Randy's place trying to figure out what to do next. They thought about going to ask the factory owner if he knew any lawyers that they could, like, get help from, but they weren't sure if he knew, like, criminal lawyers or, like, corporate lawyers, and I was like, oh boy, I probably should have figured out how the law works.
Who's in charge here?
Like, I didn't have it down to that much specificity, so that was something I was nervous about. But what they ended up deciding is they would go back to the Adventurers Guild and see if the guild had a way to basically help adventurers who got in a situation where people outside of the normal task got hurt. That was their basic idea. Additionally, like, they've done some good work, especially in this region. They did fight Kaivanth, the Wyvern, so they had some street cred.
Yeah.
But they did have to sort of disguise themselves, planning to go to the guild the next day. And then I switched over to Edgar in a holding cell, being questioned by a guard captain. He explained some of the situation to them, but he didn't give up the names of the rest of the party, choosing not to say who they were, but he just said that there was a situation that escalated pretty quickly, and also made sure to mention that Darren had summoned a bear, although the bear itself, they discovered during the fight, was an illusion, so there wasn't any trace of it.
Oh my god. He's gonna be locked up forever.
Probably. So the guard captain said that he would be held until trial, but he wouldn't be held by the city guard. And then he revealed a character that we met a while ago. So this fighter, he's basically tied to the lordship or the lord family of a town called Dunshold, which is just north of the large city that they're in. And he's basically the youngest of several brothers and sisters. So the guard captain, very fortunately for this guy, revealed that his sister was in town, and his sister would now be taking custody of him and bringing him back to Dunshold, where he would be held until the trial itself. Edgar, being his noble self, said that he didn't want any special treatment and wanted to stay in the regular prison instead. There was an argument about it, and Athilda decided to just leave him there for now overnight, but would be back to collect him in the morning. And this was something that I think some of us forgot, except for Edgar, because he had the blue dragon orb in his possession. So I was I was very excited.
What? He still has it?
Well, not like on him, like it was in his stuff.
Oh shit. Oh no.
So I was very excited for the powerful dragon orb to be in the city guard lockup, but
that would be the funniest place to leave it. Like, we gotta pick this up later. Like in the the evidence locker, like
just sitting there.
Oh my god, like one of the most powerful MacGuffins ever. just like in some dude's drawer, like.
Yeah. I was super excited to do some crafty stuff with that.
They don't even know what it is. Like they're just
Nope.
like, it's a weird ass rock. Just checking into the thing.
Fortunately, though, Edgar had enough sense to tell Athilda about it and to tell the guild that he has the orb, even though Athilda had no idea what he was talking about and she couldn't like get his stuff until the next day.
Yeah.
So this is the point where I thought the game was gonna end, and then I would have to figure out, like, okay, what are they gonna do with the orb? What are they gonna say to the guild? Is there gonna be a sort of trial here? I was also thinking about like how we'd done like a trial recently in the Unintended Consequences game, but this is the point where I was like, okay, I gotta figure out what is going to happen next. And I thought we were gonna stop for that point in the day. We had stopped to like eat and stuff, but then everyone was asking like, are we gonna keep going? And then we just started talking, and then we kept going. And at that point, I was like, "All right, I'll ride this out because we're all going. Everybody wants to keep playing. I wanted to keep playing for sure, but I was just nervous about like I didn't know what to do. But I mean, I knew the people involved. I knew like the guards. They want to investigate what's happening here. Athilda, Edgar's sister, she wants him like out of the city, and if he's going to be held anywhere, he'll be held at home. The guild, they're probably going to do what they can, but if the investigation goes a certain way, they're not going to like keep literal murderers in the guild. Like I had a sense of like what each faction or character would want, so it's just like, let's see how this plays out. So the next day, Talia and Valzana, they put some disguises on. Randy was being stealthy as they went back to the Adventurers Guild. And then, for whatever reason, so like Randy's player has been talking about like wanting to make like a new character and just wanting to kill off Randy.
Yeah.
So, like I explained before, like he had been imprisoned in like this mystical necklace and was revived to be assigned basically to helping deal with like this whole dragon orb thing because it was a very big deal. Like that was just the way of trying to get him into the party and onto the quest. This character who was essentially a cyberpunk reference.
That's just a reference.
But he started tugging at like the magical necklace that was still tied to him. It was still around his neck. And as he pulled it, I had to go back to some old stuff and old mechanics that I had gotten a while ago from a certain cursed item. Basically, the requirements of if you start tugging on this thing, it'll start to get tighter. And if you continue to pull it, then you have to roll either an athletics or a fortitude check with a very high DC. The failure of which would cause, I mean, you would start suffocating and start losing air for a number of rounds, which is like you have like 5 plus your Constitution modifier number of rounds of air normally.
Yeah.
So the more you pull on it, the more it'll suffocate you and then start to cause damage. And it just causes like every time you fail the check, it just causes 30 damage.
Oh God, that's a lot.
It is. Then I thought he would stop after the first couple of times, but he keeps pulling at it and continuing to lose air, and at the point where he is at like 9 hit points is where he finally decides to stop. So Talia and Valzana just see Randy just start like choking in the middle of the street. It does get the attention of some city guard who were already trying to stealth past. So yeah, so the guard comes over, Randy is there like nearly unconscious and choking, and he was taken in by the guard. So the party was split up even further. So Talia and Valzana were pretty confused, but assumed that Randy must have some sort of plan. So inside, those two were taken to see the quest master, who is basically the person who's in charge of like all the adventurers in a specific region. The building itself was, like I described it, as like being a very well-kept and ornate building, very clean. But entering the quest master's office, they can see that it was decorated with like heads and limbs of various monsters, including some monsters that are from like different planes.
Yeah.
and then directly behind them is just like an arrangement of different like bows. I was kind of just picturing some stuff I've done in Skyrim, pretty much.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, also in the office of Questmaster Eleanor was Athilda, and there was a bit of an argument already going on. And Athilda was pretty mad. She does recognize the party, because she met them before. She had a bit of a confrontation with them. Valzana claimed that they were all acting in self-defense. Athilda asked them to come with her to help, like, argue with Edgar to help get him out of prison. But they refused because Eleanor had offered them, like, a place to stay temporarily out of the sight of the guard. So Athilda wasn't very happy that they chose their own safety over trying to help Edgar, which might come back later.
Interesting.
So yeah, Athilda went to get Edgar. And then we skip over there to the prison itself, where Edgar was able to hear Randy being brought in, just because he was being brought there pretty much right away, and he got a nat 20 on his perception check. So he's able to hear Randy being brought in before Athilda arrived. Athilda asked about what Valzana had said. Edgar said that Darren was actually surrendering at the time, which is true. But he still didn't want to go with her, so Athilda pretty much, at this point, she ordered him to come with her, using her authority as, like, the head of the guard of Dunshold and the person who's been assigned to take care of Edgar, leaning on rules rather than just hoping her being family would be enough. Mm-hmm. And then things continue to go sideways.
Oh, okay.
As they're walking past Randy's cell, Randy called out to Edgar, saying the necklace made him act this way. And Edgar, seeing Randy, was pretty mad, because all of this started because they were trying to get Randy's loot back from Darren. And now, like, Edgar's been arrested, and Randy's been arrested, and who knows where the rest of the party is, and 2 people are dead, and all this stuff going on. So Edgar manages to push over to Randy's cell. He's just barely able to reach in and start pulling on the necklace, which, since he was the one pulling on it, I had him roll the check, and it was enough to avoid damage for a bit, but then Randy still fell unconscious. Like, Edgar managed to make a couple of checks, but then Randy took another 30 points of damage and he was at 9 hit points already, so he was out. So he was... Wow. He did use a hero point to stabilize, but he was unconscious at that point. And then this is when Athilda found out the whole thing was for a special loot. So we go back to the guild, and again, this is just me playing off like, okay, Athilda's mad about what happened right now. She wants to protect her brother. Eleanor is offering the party a place to stay because she knows what they've done, but if they're actual murderers, she'll boot them out. And then I just kind of played off of that. And Athilda, when she came back, she confronted the party. Valzana argued that Edgar shouldn't have been so noble. Athilda was like, what else do you think he would be? You've known him long enough. And Valzana had said that, you know, like, she didn't want to be kicked out of the guild because of Edgar being noble and things like that. Athilda, at this point, she just, she rolled max damage on a slap attack on Valzana, and then she just she dropped Edgar's pack in Eleanor's office, where they could see like the blue glow of the orb coming from inside of it, and then just went off with Edgar back to Dunshold. And Randy is still in prison. And then Valzana and Talia, they recovered the stone. They were let off to like a separate room just to wait out for a bit while Eleanor figures out what to do next. Yeah. But they did have the stone with them. And then they started talking about just getting the rest of the orbs for themselves instead of collecting them for the Adventurers Guild. Whoa. And at that point, I was sort of, as he went into the conclusion, I was sort of, you know, like just narrating the conclusion with these 2 people, with Valzana being the only surviving original person from like the first session of the game. How she had like gained and lost more friends than she could count at this point, and now has the opportunity to acquire power for herself instead of for someone else. And then over to Talia, who's like the witch whose patron we had dealt with some time ago, and it seemed like they had gone quiet for a while, was now just whispering in her ear, congratulating her on getting closer to collecting the next set of stones. And sort of like encouraging her to go forward.
Oh, that's so good.
So, yeah, I think it's going to be an evil campaign now.
Ooh, I love these low moments.
Yeah.
When players are like, damn, wait, am I the baddie now? Like,
might be.
No, that's good. That's really good. I love it when campaigns, like, I like it when players die, they get out of the campaign, all sorts of nonsense happens to these people, and then, you know, new characters fill their shoes or something like that. But it's just the drama, right? You can't replace that. I love that. You know, this poor lady has gone through so much for this stupid rock. So many of her friends just, you know, buried and gone, and she's like, what's the point, right?
Yeah, let's just get it for myself instead of for. Yeah, she's earned it. She's paid.
Yeah, you know, she paid her dues, right? Like, oh, that's so good.
Yeah, I'm very excited because I also had stuff planned for Talia's patron that I'm gonna have to accelerate the schedule on now.
Nice. So then I guess is Randy Copperfoot out of the campaign? I guess he's just stuck in jail, right? I guess that
pretty much.
Like
so
character?
Yeah, Randy and Edgar's players were talking about making new characters, and like for me, normally what I would have them do is I'd have to make characters that were part of the Adventurers Guild because that was just an easiest way to onboard them into the party. But now I'm just like, you can do whatever you want as long as they have a reason to want to go after these stones, and then I can figure out things from there. Like I can figure out how to mix you guys together from there.
Okay, cool.
So I'm very excited to see what will come out of that. I'm hearing thaumaturge a lot, so.
I like the idea that Edgar is gonna be like on house arrest for the rest of his life. like it's like, now Edgar, you're stuck in your cold ass winter ass castle, being sad, lamenting about how things going so far.
Maybe that's probably a likely outcome.
I would be so happy when, like, whenever the party ever goes back to Edgar's, like, hometown and be like, let's go visit Edgar, and he's just like this sad drunk.
I don't think they're gonna be welcome back there anytime soon. Yeah, I do not know because I don't know what's gonna happen now. I straight up don't. The most I can do now is just make sure that anything to do with the stones or the orbs rather is ready and prepared. But I can't figure out like where they're gonna go next or who they're even gonna be. I'm very excited. I'm very energized.
Are you gonna tell your peoples, your players, to watch this episode?
I assume they will. I'm trying to avoid spoiling anything too far down the line because I still have some stuff that I want to do and hopefully can do. But yeah, like as far as direction goes, this is the most I've not known and the least nervous I've ever been about that.
Nice. Oh, it's so good. If you are listening, Crown of Dragon players, whoever's left of the campaign, I suggest you just give them to Calvin, make them evil NPCs, and just let them be their full, back in black self, and just start off fresh with like a new,
an entirely new party.
Yeah, an entirely new party, right? Like, and then right, we, then was it Talia and who's the other one?
Valzana.
Yeah, Talia and Valzana can show up. Like, they're still working together, but now they're the bad guys.
Ooh, that would be very fun to run, but I'll see how they feel.
Yeah, and like maybe like Talia can like start wielding the powers of the orb a little bit, and then you can start making it up like that, and then it's like now you got some two legendary badass bad guys that like the party's like super familiar with because lol, they were them.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh
That'd
man,
be so good.
that would be remarkably fun to do, but also see how they feel, because I'm sure they want to get to you play their characters still.
That's true. But I'm always down for that. I'm always like, yes, let's my character just be evil, and then I'm gonna play a different character, and I'm gonna beat up myself later. Be like, look, and be like, you're the chosen one. Fighting over a lava pit, like that's what I want so bad.
Just holding the orb over a lava pit.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. It could be any number of things. And I just don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's cool. I mean, I'm a big fan of the Crown of Dragons campaign. It feels like a lot to play in, but I'm always a fan of hearing it. And yeah, if you listeners are still with us, if you let Calvin know how good of a job he's doing in his campaign. I always get so many ideas when you tell me about it. I'm like, oh shit, that sounds really cool.
Hopefully people are enjoying these recaps as well. And yeah, like honestly for this session, I just had like the Darren fight planned, and I had given them a portal chamber a while ago for fast travel, just because the pace of the campaign's been pretty slow. Obviously, because we're at like 40 sessions.
Oh man, could you imagine if like Evil Talia and friend like just takes over the portal chamber and they just keep showing up to places and the players like, damn it. We can't track them because we gave them exactly the tools. Ah man.
I kind of want that.
Yeah, as soon as this campaign's over, you should just run Crown of Dragons again for another group, but just with these bad guys.
Just see what happens.
Yeah, like just give like the teleport room, and then just have bad guys show up all the time and be like, how the fuck did you even get here?
Teleporter.
Bye, suckers.
Yeah, all I had planned was just like another high level encounter, but this is much better. And gives me more, and now I can just go like refine some ideas. And I don't want to say too much because I know I have things that I want to do, and I have things I have to move around, and I have things I have to change. But I'm very excited to see who those new characters are going to be. I'm definitely looking forward to that. I think it's going to be a while before we're able to get together again, but hopefully not too long.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Maybe even you could sneak in like a one-on-one session with the new party or new players, and maybe get like to know them a little bit better. That might be something you could do, and then have that lead like their two storylines lead into how you want them to be introduced to the party.
That is a very good idea. I might actually just have to do that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if y'all out there want to hear more about this campaign or the other campaigns we're talking about, or the other games we've talked about, like Lancer and Starfinder, Means and Masterminds, and all of that fun stuff, definitely hit that subscribe button. We were mentioning it multiple times because we do not say it enough. I think we're ready to roll into the outro, though, unless, Ramon, is there anything else you wanted to hear about the campaign so far?
No, I'm stressed.
Yeah.
In a good way.
Yeah, same. Pretty much the same. All right. Well, thanks a ton, everybody out there, for listening. If you want to see more from us, just check out the channel. We've got tabletop podcasts. We've got live streams. All sorts of fun stuff going on. Doing some cool new games on the channel as far as live streams go, playing Sims, Divinity Original Sin, and well, Mass Effect 3 isn't new, it's continuing, but I don't even know if I'm close to the end at this point. I feel like I'm just doing a ton of stuff in that game, and I haven't gotten through like half of it. So definitely go check that out. As well, check out all the cool stuff that's linked below, all of the people who we've had on the channel before, and all the awesome projects we've gotten to talk about. Additionally, please check out the Untold Stories Project channel, where I'm at on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, playing in the multiverse hopping Freedom League Dart game and the Magical Girls in a Fantasy World in the Gemstars game. A lot of chaos going on in both of those games. If you want to see the party split up, and then one half does pretty good, and then one half gets wrecked by a wizard, definitely check out those games.
Those damn wizards.
Freaking wizards. Look, it's not it's not my fault that we split the party and fought the end boss in session 4. We thought it would work. Oh, man.
Alright, folks. Also, check out the Grand Saga.
Yes.
Name pending. My very own tabletop RPG that I'm kind of goofing around with in alpha. There'll be a link below, and I'm making some big systemic changes, and those should be done within like the next week. So, yeah, I'm hoping that I'll stop changing stuff and I can release it proper. But if you want to check out the Google Doc and see the progress, it's down there.
Yeah, definitely go check that out. It's going to be, as Ramon said, linked below. But I think that is it for the show. Anything else you want to say before we head off?
Nah, I think, yeah, don't stick your copper foot in your mouth, friends.
Well, for all of our turning evil GMs and players out there, just remember to keep on winning with dice, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.